At some point, Marlene, I would like to talk about my experience with a male cat who had urinary issues. And I don't know if you want me to do that now or later.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so I have a tale of 3 cats, actually. My first cat, Prince, although I was a vegan, he was not. And he lived 13 years. He developed an enlarged heart and died very suddenly of a heart attack. Didn't live that long. And then I had, at about the same time, a kitten named Precious, who's now almost 17, and another cat named Henry, who I adopted from a shelter. And I was trying, and I had a feral cat colony that were all spayed and neutered, and I was starting feeding them evolution. And my cat Henry developed the urinary tract crystals. I don't remember the medical terminology, but he was very suddenly in a lot of pain. I rushed him to the vet. It's an invasive, there's my kitties and my puppies. He had to be catheterized, and it's invasive and expensive. And I was told that I had to feed him a special diet that was very low in minerals, that was made by one of the big pet food companies. I don't remember which, but it was basically a lot of lamb fat and lamb meat. And I was mortified because I was a vegan, but I also knew that this could be a fatal medical issue. So I started feeding him the food, the prescription food. And when I felt that he was pretty much stabilized after several months, I started phasing back in the evolution. This was the original formula of evolution. So this was about 18 years ago or so. He had a second bout of the urinary tract issues. Again, I had to rush him to the vet, get him treated. At that point, I was so scared, I just had to keep him on that horrible diet. And he developed an enlarged heart. He was quite young, maybe 4 or 5 years old. And then one morning he had, I'm not sure whether it was a stroke or some sort of a blood clot, or he became suddenly paralyzed in his hind end and was not getting any circulation. His whole hind end was cold. I rushed him to the vet and was told that, you know, he was in a lot of pain, and they had possibly some experimental invasive procedures that weren't likely to be successful, or I could have him end his suffering, which I decided to have him euthanized. And he was only like 5 years old. And so I had a bunch of cats, but only one was male, which is Precious. And I was terrified to have him be on a vegan diet. And at that point, and initially when I started buying the evolution, it was from Vegan Cats was the name of the place where I ordered it. And I noticed that they had started suddenly recommending that cats not be vegan, and that there were these issues, and I was terrified. And so I started feeding Precious evolution, but then I would buy 1 can of tuna fish a week and give him a tablespoon in with his evolution to make it like 80% vegan, 20% not. Of course, I was feeding him not only abused and tortured tuna, but also mercury and radiation from Fukushima, you know. So I did that for quite a while. My female cats, I was feeding them most of the time just the evolution. They seemed to be fine. And then I started participating in it was a World Peace Diet weekly study group, and the Eric Weissman, who makes evolution, participated in that group. And he started talking about how to have vegan cats and how to, you know, feed them distilled water, hydrate the food, keep them hydrated, use cranberry. But that he would keep repeating that animal-based products are highly toxic and cats can be vegan, but you have to be careful. And so I started, I transitioned Precious to a fully vegan diet. I started hydrating the food and putting the nutritional yeast for flavoring and some Amicat on there because my cats love that, and making sure they got lots and lots of water. And I have a water fountain that has, water bowl that has a fountain that encourages water drinking. So then my cats were all vegan. Then my house burned down in a wildfire. And so I was temporarily housed. We were in a hotel for 5 days, and then we stayed at someone's house above their garage for a couple of months. And so in that whole thing where the upheaval, I was just putting in, tap water. The cats were getting tap water for like a week or two, and the litter box was in a difficult place for them to get to, and they weren't going to the bathroom, and they were it was a lot of trauma for all of us. And so Precious, all of a sudden one night, started, I could tell he was in pain. He was squatting, kept going to the litter box, nothing was coming out. I'm like, oh God, please, not this. So I called Eric Weissman right away, and I said, Precious is, in a lot of pain. He's showing signs that, he's got this urinary problem. And Eric said, well, it's, just know it can be fatal. So don't wait too long not to take him to a vet. I did not want to get him catheterized and go through all that. So he told me some things to do immediately. One, get distilled water, get him off of the tap water, distilled water, get him some cranberry, get him, he gave me a couple of other things to give him, some herbs, noni and uva ursi were the 2 herbs, and use a broad syringe and start hydrating him with the herbs and also some vitamin C. And so I rushed to the store. I got the water, luckily the pet store had some of the things that I needed as well. And I got the herbs, and I immediately started giving him, hydrating him and giving him the herbs and the cranberry and the supplements. And by the next morning, he was fine. And he's never had another issue, and he's 100% vegan, but it is something that you need to be very careful around. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Susan.